Darren Mitchell.
And I'm Joseph Nixon.
And this is Rotten 90s Movies. And the movie this week is
Henry and June.
Yes, which was directed by Philip Kaufman.
I was a bit confused. In my head, I'd remembered it being directed by Alan Rudolph, I think. Who
did The Moderns, was it?
Yeah, and he did Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle.
Yes,
they're terrible.
They're quite similar, aren't they?
Yeah, but this is Philip Kaufman. He's made some good films, hasn't he? He did The Right Stuff, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And he did the 70s remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, that's right. That was what made his name, wasn't it? That was
This, however, is a stinker.
So, yes, it's 1990. It was released. I went to the cinema to see this.
Why did you go to the cinema to see this? Because it was rude.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it had Uma Thurman in.
That's true. That's got Uma Thurman in.
She's the only woman in the world called Uma.
I think is it an Indian name?
So it's
a lot of Indian Umas.
I didn't. It's certainly. It sounds like it's sort of the name that you get in the 20s song, isn't it? Uma. Maybe it's just a rumour. That kind of thing. So Mark pitching you, woo, you would humour, so that kind of thing. Anyway, yes, it's the story. Do you know much about... So before we go on to the plot, do you know much about the budget and how well it did?
It sort of did okay, I think. I mean, it wasn't a huge smash, but, it's an art film, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the kind of film they don't make anymore.
Well, I remember getting a fairly big release. I think it was actually at the main, I think I saw it at the Odeon. Brighton, rather than
a big release.
Yeah,
I can't remember if Barry Norman liked it or not.
So the cast was Fred Ward
as Henry Miller,
Uma
the novelist.
Yeah, Uma Thurman we mentioned as his wife June. We had, I don't remember her name at all. Do you remember her name? Playing Anais Nin, the famous diarist, infamous diarist.
I'm not sure how to say her name. Because he keeps getting a name wrong in the film, doesn't he?
Yeah, he keeps calling
Anus.
Yeah, Anus. And Richard E. Grant as her long-suffering cuckolded husband, Hugo. And who else? Oh, there's a kind of small role played by young Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, who sort of turns up being very... can be camp, but not homosexual, I think.
No, and it's the true story of the kind of ménage à trois between Henry Miller, his wife, and Anais Nin in Paris in the 30s.
Yeah.
And Henry Miller, of course, was a sort of notorious... he's not really a novelist, is he?
He sort of invented a new art form,
yes,
a sort of autobiographical, very sexually charged
graphic novel. Yeah. Not a graphic novel, as in a comic. Novel, graphically.
It's a good job it was.
It would have definitely been impounded. And Tropical Cancer is the famous book that you see him writing in this film, which was banned for 27 years. Yeah. Because it's got a lot of bad language in it.
Yes, it only came out in the early 60s, 61, I think, something like that.
But it still had quite a big influence, because obviously, if you ban a book, people tried to get hold of it. George Orwell wrote a famous essay about
Inside the Whale.
And this film sort of tries to, I suppose, earnestly capture these events, because they were also described by Anais Nin in her diaries. Those who are of a certain age will remember that those diaries were the main way in which book clubs hooked people into joining them in the 70s. You saw the diaries of Anais Nin.
You'd have a bunch of Melvin Bragg novels, and then just in the corner you'd have How to Please Your Man in Bed.
Yes, there's a bit early on in the film, I don't give too much away, but there's a bit where she discovers these sort of vaguely pornographic postcards that are in her husband's wardrobe. One of them is what was the cover for years of maybe not in America, but it was unconscious, I think.
I do think it was funny
finding the cover of the book.
Finding the porn, just like finding old copies of Razzle in your older brother's
jazz age bags. So Yes, so the plot is...
Well, hang on, shall we talk about the cast first?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've mentioned Fred Ward.
So we've got Fred Ward, who's
mostly remembered now for Tremors, I
Yeah.
guess. And of course, The Right Stuff.
and he's in which was in one of the Naked Gun films. Is it Naked Gun 33 and a third? He plays the bad guy in prison. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Leslie Nielsen infiltrates the prison. And
Oh,
pretends
yes,
to be
that's
Bond,
right,
yeah?
that's right. Yeah,
He's very good in that. Well, in this film, though, I mean, Henry Miller was famously bald.
yes.
Fred Ward is not bald.
No.
And for some reason, when they make a not bald guy play a bald guy in a film and shave his head, it never looks right.
Oh, it's terrible.
Does
Yeah,
it?
I noticed there's a moment halfway through the film where they start to, because at first he reveals himself as takes a hat and he's got his bald head, and you've got an absolutely perfectly tonsured. It looks like he's been tonsured as part of some strange Benedictine order. You know, he's got an absolute cue ball head with an entirely straight line, you know, either side, and I think there's obviously a moment halfway through shooting where Fred Ward or the hairdresser or something have worked out, oh, maybe this doesn't look very good. Maybe we should. And they try to grade it. Have you noticed and make it seem a bit more natural? And it still looks terrible. It keeps reminding me of that thing that's been said that you could tell a reservoir because. A reservoir that's created by a dam because the waters, the shore is never natural. It's like with a lake. With a lake you get this kind of natural shore that develops over the millennia, but with a reservoir it's just like cuts on, and it's exactly like that with his bald head.
It put me in mind of what's the film Scandal, where Ian McKellen plays Profumo.
Oh, yes.
And they shave his hair and he's got this weird bit at the back and he looks like he's in the Mikado or something like that. He really doesn't look like a bald man at all. So I think just get a bald actor if you need to play a bald character.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's good, Fred Ward. In this.
He is good.
He's good. He's terribly hampered by the bald. It's by the dialogue and the bald.
No, he's convincing. He sort of spends most of it sort of... going around like Fred Flintstone, doesn't he? Hey, get out of here! But he's all right. The lady whose name we can't remember, I'm afraid, the Portuguese actress who plays a nice Nin.
Maria de Medeiros.
All right. It's a cultured man here. It's Murray Simon, our producer.
Hello.
Off camera. Get a reputation for not remembering the phone.
I'm too old to have to remember.
Yeah, she was in Pulp Fiction.
She plays Butcher's girlfriend, doesn't she?
Right.
Talking about the oral pleasures or whatever.
Having a pot belly.
Yes. And she's all right as an ASN, I suppose. I don't know, she's sort of... The whole film's on her shoulders, really, isn't it? And I think this was her big break.
Yes.
And she's all right, I guess. She's maybe they should have got a more experienced actor.
Yeah. It's just a matter of tape. Don't find her especially erotic. No. I think she doesn't exude the kind of...
No, it's a bit odd that Henry Miller's tempted away from Uma Thurman by her, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really make
Uma Thurman looks kind of poorly in this movie. I know she's sort of meant to, but too poorly.
She's also hampered with the worst sort of Brooklyn accent I've ever heard in
but
my life.
Also, what's become apparent to me about Uma Thurman, and because one was slightly dazzled by her appearance when young, is that she's terrible. Yeah, she's a terrible actress. I mean, I first noticed this in Sweet and Low Down, which is a really good film. I think it's an excellent film.
It's a Sean Penn.
And Uma Thurman's in it, and she stinks it up. She's so bad in it, and then watching this, it was just like, oh no, she's awful. She's completely incapable of suggesting the sort of this one of the plot. Both Anais Nin and Henry Miller basically get locked into a kind of competition over who's going to capture the spirit of this woman. There's June, and that she's meant to have this great spirit that they both wanted to try and capture in prose. Yeah. And she hasn't got it. She just seems like spoiled and dull.
I think they thought that her luminous beauty would do the trick, and they didn't have to.
No,
you're right. It doesn't work, does it?
No.
In fact, this is a film all about...
They look terribly deluded, both of them.
It's all about desire. It's kind of hard to see why any of the three characters desire each other. I don't really see what Miller sees in a nice nin, really. He's sort of seems a bit precious and spoiled and annoying.
And mousy.
Yeah. And, I mean, Uma Thurman is very beautiful, but like you say, her character, she's sort of a bit of a damp squib in terms of character, isn't she?
And you've got... And Richard E. Grant. Character does possibly the worst accent of the total. I mean, it's between Uma Thurman and him, I think. But he looks terribly out of water.
She's got this sort of terrible sort of.
It's just awful.
She's got this. Her voice is so depressing in this. We went. I was in New York recently, and at the airport there was over the tunnel there was this sort of. Someone saying, "Well, Mr. and Mrs. Zukowski, please report." And one of those terrible droning sort of broke out, and she's just that voice throughout the film. And she's got these lines that are meant to be sort of full of intrigue, and she's just sort of saying them all like that.
There's a. We were discussing earlier with Murray. Murray doesn't like Kevin Spacey in this. I actually thought Spacey was good in this. I think it's. I thought it was one of the best things I've seen him do.
I was baffled by he sort of turns up in all over blue body paint like a Smurf.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Spacey Smurf. The other Smurfs stay away from Spacey Smurf.
But he plays the kind of character that Tropical Cancer, if you've ever read the book, is sort of full of. Yeah. But he only gets a little. I mean. This is one of the main problems of the film for me. It's terrible humorlessness. It makes it feel like it's a terrible ordeal reading Henry Miller. And my dad, who was not arty at all, he devoured Tropical Cancer.
It's very readable.
They're funny. The books are funny. They're full of these various misfits trying to make their way in Paris and trying to get laid, and sort of like complaining that somebody's stolen their work. Or and the language is quite fresh, but they're funny books and there's no humour. There's a little couple of moments where there's an attempt to show that there's sort of humorous side to Miller, but they're not really enough. It just seems terribly po-faced.
Do you think it's believable that Anais Nin and June Miller are sort of captured by Fred Ward's? Spirit, his sexuality. It's sort of earthy, I suppose.
I guess. I mean, I guess he's kind of earthy in the way that Hugo isn't. The Richard E. Grant character. I think Fred Ward does a reasonable job at being a kind of charismatic, figure. I just think that if they've allowed him to be. Not just sort of protean, masculine, sort of like sex obsessed. If it allowed him to have more of a sense of humour, I think he would have been more winning. I don't know.
No, you're right.
There's. I mean, one of the problems as well. Let's go lie to is everything's very poised. Everything's very arty. People don't feel. I mean, the kind of the fake bald head of Fred Ward is kind of a good symbol for the movie, really. Is that everybody feels as artificially poised as that, really. And there's there's no real life in the characters, I think.
No, there aren't. Okay, shall we talk about the plot?
Yeah. Okay. I thought we had.
Well,
in a vague way,
we begin with Anais Nin and her husband, and she's sort of saying, well, he's a sort of boring banker. Yeah. He's got the terrible line, estate planning can be very creative.
I know, it's awful. Yes.
And she sort of wants more out of life. And
she says, I've got a little terrible line. I need to know people who are alive, Hugo, she says.
and he points out quite reasonably, I thought, that the banking's funding this lifestyle for her in a big house and having literary friends and things like that. I thought, well, he's got a point, really, hasn't he?
And Miller turns up, and I think one of the things that the film doesn't really point out is that Miller's sort of late to the feast, isn't he, really? Yeah. It's the 30s, it's not the 20s, it's not the time that Alan Rudolph does in the modern. So most of the great American writers, they've they've buggered off. They've
Hemingway's gone.
Hemingway's gone. You know, Fitzgerald's gone.
Yeah.
You know, that era's gone. Miller's really turning up at a place that's no longer, you know, this.
He's turning up to the crumbs of the feast.
yeah. But it doesn't seem to bother him particularly, you know.
No.
But that's the thing that Orwell likes about him Inside the Well, you know, that he kind of misses the boat, really.
I mean, this film, it's mistitled, really, isn't it? Because it's really about Henry Miller and Alice Nin.
Yeah, and there's very, very little of June in it.
Yeah, so Miller turns up and Alice Nin's fascinated by him, and they basically have this affair. First of all, it's a sort of emotional affair, and then it's a sexual affair, and then she leaves her husband for him.
Yes, that's
and
right.
then leaves him for her husband.
Yeah, they kind of have a row, don't they, where they manage to sort of like read about half a page of each other's manuscripts and then immediately have an insight. This is the kind of film where people will look at like 2 pages and go, "Oh, it's amazing. This is the most amazing thing." 2 sentences in, you're the new Tolstoy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a ridiculous scene.
There's a very strange bit where he reads a bit of her book and criticises it, and then he says you got to take a few knocks on the chins, and then the whole thing turns into this extended metaphor about prize fighting.
Yes,
and then they actually start boxing.
Yes.
Each other, which I thought was so strange.
No, it's very odd. She goes sort of back. She goes back to her husband. Oh, there are some dodgy scenes in this. There's a scene where her husband essentially in the carnival in disguise
with blue paint,
with blue paint all over him. He grapes her, doesn't he? Essentially, I suppose you could see it as that. Do we know that she knows it's him?
I sort of assumed that she knew it was him.
Yeah,
but it's not very clear.
No, it's not. It's a sort of kind of fantasy enactment, isn't it?
And it's not very clear earlier on when Henry Miller carries her into the backstage area and has his way with her. How much she wants him to do it.
I mean,
so there's dodgy. Really,
there's a. I mean, actually, talking about the carnival scene, that is by far the dodgiest part of the film. That's the bit that would make it banned, because there's a lot of people, who I would say they're blacked up, basically, for the carnival, and it wouldn't be filmed now. Let's put it like that. There's so the plot. I mean, they just come and go, don't they? June.
Well, so Uma Thurman turns up and is meant to sort of fascinate everyone.
Yeah.
With her beauty and
and she's obviously sort of very near to being a prostitute. She sort of like seems to be constantly trying to pay her way by promising sexual favours to various French officials.
She's got this sort of sugar.
Who are very susceptible to that kind of thing, as we well know.
Well, of course. She's got this sort of sugar daddy called Pops or something like that.
Yeah.
Who's and the idea is obviously that in a way Miller's a sort of pimp who sort of gets her to fund his extravagant lifestyle.
Yes. She's kind of given everything for him for him to write this novel that's going to immortalise her.
So she turns out, and then she buggers off back to America. We don't see her for most of the film. Most of the film's about him and Alice Nin. And that on-off relationship. And then at the end of the film, she comes back.
Yes.
And then... that's quite funny,
actually. And Alice Nin and her sort of kind of nearly get it on.
Yeah, although I did notice Uma Thurman, presumably in her contract, keeps her kit on.
Oh, yes.
You don't see any Uma's bits. You see all of the...
Yeah.
What's her name again? Marie?
Maria de...
That's her.
Oh, that's her, yes.
That's her.
Yeah, that's... we can find
not being culturally insensitive.
On IMDb.
So it's a really odd sex scene because she's naked and Uma Thurman's sort of fully clean. You can't see anything really.
This is quite weird as well because at this point, Alice Nin blurts out that her and Henry Miller have had an affair.
She
somehow
says, nothing wakes him up when he's gone to sleep.
Yeah, that's right. And she'll go, and you think, does anybody care by this point?
I mean, they're both having sex, so is it? It's a terrible faux pas if you're having sex with someone's wife and you blurt out that you've also had sex with that person's husband.
I know. It's
something to stop and you have to put your clothes on.
Weird. No one gives a monkeys at this point.
This is Paris in the 30s.
They're all in and out of bed with each other. You know, it's like it's strange. There's that horrible. Oh, we'll come back. We'll come to this when we talk about worst bits. But
sadly, there's the bit at the end where June leaves and Henry Miller's he's going June. It just really made me think of Terry and June for some reason. And Terry's going June. I thought maybe this film would have been better with June infield. And
so in the end, you know, June goes off back to New York and complaining that Tropic of Cancer doesn't capture enough, needs more work. And
how are we meant to take that? Is she meant to be right? Do you think?
I don't know.
I got the idea that she's sort of never satisfied.
Yeah, no, I kind of got
meant to go.
Yeah, I guess that. I think it was sort of hedging its bets. It's sort of. In a way, you could say that about any work of art.
True.
In a way, you can also definitely say it about Tropic of Cancer because it's sort of written in that sort of rough and ready. It's just sort of not automatic writing, but it's got a definite feel of automatic writing.
It's stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness,
basically, isn't it?
Yeah. So you know, you go and work harder on your stream of consciousnness novel. You know,
I want you to severely edit this stream of consciousness novel. That's what I want.
You know. And Henry Miller's obviously meant to be there, on his own, continuing his various escapades. Kind of maintaining a sort of relationship of sorts with Niacin, presumably.
Yeah.
And you know, befriending Lawrence Durrell, writing dirty letters.
We should point out Lawrence Durrell isn't in this.
No, Lawrence Durrell isn't in this. Yet. He's not turned up.
He should be very young. You know, at the end of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where King Richard comes back and it's Sean Connery. They should have done that, but with Lawrence Durrell, played by Sean Connery.
So this is and. It's 2.25 hours.
This is a long.
It's like 40 minutes in. I thought I don't know how we're going to get through.
You found this film very long.
Oh, I had to start skipping through the 20th sex scene.
Oh, it's decidedly unerotic. It's about as erotic as watching a dog sneeze. It's
the most erotic moment I found was the Nokia nipple twist.
Oh yeah, that's fun too. I thought he's trying to sort of like get it onto silent or something because there's
trying to get radio live.
This is a bit of an unconscious bit, which is they have Hugo playing Terega, the Grand Valse, which was the known to us now as the Nokia advert, the
Nokia ringtone.
Just twiddling a nipple. There's a number. I think there are 3 ludicrous sort of juxtaposition stroke fade-ins in this. There's one where they're making love and then it changes to Fred Ward and Hugo on bikes.
Oh yes,
panting away.
The weirdest one I found was the bongo.
The bongo. And then there's the guitar one.
No one has any fun in this. The closest to the student carnival looks like it's completely devoid of any fun.
No one's
enjoying themselves. They're just
going through the motions.
Yeah. There's the bike's there just for them to be competitive. There's no sense of them just riding a bike and enjoying themselves in the woods. There's no fun at all. They have a very funless life. It's weird how po-faced it is.
Going to the sex club that they end up going to, that was the most intimidating, and they looked like they'd been caught in a trap.
Yeah. I thought
they have gone there.
Far be it for me to cast aspersions on anyone's looks. God knows I'm no all painting myself, but they seem to pick the 2 least attractive prostitutes for the lesbian floor show.
Yeah. No, she says. What would you like us to do? And there's a bit of niacin. Says, stop pretending to be a man. And I thought she said, now do step 2 and the thought I had was that Richard E. Grant's Painted Blue, who made it literally a blue movie. Yeah. But there's an abundance of clowns. The only bit of fun is that there's an abundance of clowns. As if to prove it's in Paris, because obviously, in Paris you've got lots of street theatre and clowns all the time. So there's
pretty much every scene has that man dressed as a horse and another guy with 2 rings.
So he's with an egg and making it appear to us. That's 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 the only background scenes that you get, is that. And students mucking about. And of course there's loads of Stravinsky playing, just to let you know it's in Paris, and it's
there's the comedy bit where Miller gets his tie trapped in the window.
I quite liked that, actually. I quite liked that scene. I thought that sort of quite sort of well captured the sort of degradation of that kind of affair. How you find yourself in like ridiculous, then suddenly life-threatening, but comically life-threatening situations because of the kind of madness, the kind of jealousy that you get that drives you to it, But he there's the moment, there's a kind of attempt at humour, which is awful, where Hugo's returns early when Henry and Anais Nin are
and
getting
the maid's
on.
giving him
And the maid, who we've never seen anything of before, but they decided to try and give her a character. And she's rolling her eyes, and she's trying to stop Hugo from bursting. Why? Why is she trying to stop it happening? She thinks she's going to get fired, I guess. But anyway, and then she stops. Just a thing that I've never seen anybody do, which is really weird. You just got to question the relationship that Hugo has with the housekeeper. She actually stuffs a warmed roll in his mouth directly. She doesn't hand him the plate. She just goes like that, and he accepts it like a sort of baby.
This film contains scenes of warm loaves being stuffed into people's mouths. That's right. And then he gets to the room and she exits quickly, saying, Henry's finished his novel.
Yes, and then and he doesn't smell the sex on her.
No, he doesn't.
No, he just go, oh right, yeah, of course that's what's happened. He's come here. First, this is a thing that happens in the life of a writer, is that you go round to somebody else's house and in their bedroom you finish your novel, and then you fall asleep because you're exhausted.
I mean, everybody's writing a book in this film, aren't they? I think. Kevin Spacey's writing a book.
Hugo's not.
Hugo isn't, although he became a filmmaker, actually.
That's right. They're all trying to do something. The film sort of it's kind of full of lots of scenes of women fixing their stockings, and there's old gramophones of chansons are playing, and pots are boiling over, and artists are hungrily tearing chunks of baguette and guzzling Van der Table, and
old men in flat caps saying "Merci, monsieur" to them as they pass them on the street.
It really is. It's that cliched. It's so terrible. There's what's the line that I thought was how necessary this book. She's Anais Nin and Richard and Hugo have been reading Tropic of Cancer together in bed, and they have the line. I think she has the line, "How necessary the book is for our times. You give us a blood transfusion." So it's a very weird way of describing the inspiring qualities of a novel.
There are a number of bad lines in this film, aren't there? The worst line I think was, for some reason, suddenly Richard E. Grant says, "Did I ever tell you about when I was a little boy growing up in Puerto Rico?"
Oh, yes.
And I thought, "You're Richard E. Grant, you've never been to Puerto Rico."
There's I think my least favourite line is, "I loathe a man who is afraid of a woman's strength."
Yeah.
I thought that was awful.
That is awful.
Really terrible.
And you can't. It's not the actor's fault. You can't. Richard E. Grant has to say to her, "You fall in love with people's minds."
Yes.
Nobody can deliver a line like that.
So, what would you say was the best bit?
Oh God. Is there a best bit in this film? I'm not sure there is,
I think it's the tie, the window. I thought that was the only bit that gave
that sort of 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes
stretch.
I saw it alone and thought, oh, that's quite good. That's quite funny.
The bit in the cinema was all right. I thought where she sort of catches him crying at the film.
That's the worst bit.
All the rest of it.
It's really painful. It's really difficult to watch. Worst performance?
Richard E. Grant.
Yeah, terrible. Really out of water.
Can't do the accent.
No, can't. Looks really out of place. Really uncomfortable. You know,
and he's sort of trying to play an uptight stick up his arse square in it. He's not really, is he?
That's not what he could do.
No.
I mean, he can only really do one thing, can't he?
What, with no?
It's fine. Loads of actors can only really do one thing. He could do that, and he needs to be you need to sort of let him go.
Yeah.
You know, he needs to, his performance in Hudson Hawk, essentially.
I like Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, I do as well.
That's a film that's not going to end up in this.
No, it's not going to be on this list. No, it's a funny film.
We like it.
But he looks really uncomfortable in this. I think best performance.
Fred Ward, probably. He does the job, you know.
Yeah, between Fred Ward, I like Kevin Spacey in this.
Yeah,
I think Spacey's good in it. I think I know why Murray doesn't like it, but I know that I think he sort of kind of embodies the sort of weirdness of his characters getting tropical cancer.
I mean, to be fair, Uma Thurman's nearly as bad as Richard E. Grant in this.
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, I think with Richard E. Grant, it's a case of miscasting. With Uma Thurman, it's a case of she just can't do it.
It's a case of casting.
She's just she's just terrible. Saving Grace.
Well, so I suppose there wasn't much porn on offer back then, and so if you wanted a wank,
are you sure we could say that?
Well, look, if you were a couple back then and you wanted to spice up your relationship a bit,
I think there was an appeal.
Especially going to this film.
And I think because I remember it ran for quite a long time with the Duke Yorks, and there was sort of like, bit of stocking, and also it had been very po-faced.
Yeah,
we remember, sort of like the late 80s, early 90s was very sort of like, everybody was covered in a big sweater and Doc Martens boots, and
nobody was getting sexually excited by a letter to Brezhnev.
No.
Not even the world's largest pervert.
So I think this kind of a promise of, it was pre the burlesque revival, a long time pre the burlesque revival. So kind of saucy interest in stockings.
It's meant to be a sexy movie, isn't it? It's meant to turn you on.
Yeah.
Do they still make sexy movies, Hollywood? Are they a thing these days? Do they still make erotic thrillers?
HBO. It's not porn, it's HBO.
Right.
It's just all gone streaming.
I think the Saving Grace is, I guess, it does look lovely.
Actually, maybe the saving grace is that it is at least trying to tell the story of a fairly heavyweight literary figure, which I don't think you get these days.
No, God, you wouldn't go anywhere near it. Miller
is at least these days they might make it, and it would be entirely about Anais Nin.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good. It's beautifully shot, and the costumes are good. It's well lit. The score, apart from the music, is well chosen. Although there is the horribly cliched bit where there's a bit of sinister piano music playing when he first are introduced to Henry Miller. There's I remember because my missus liked it.
Oh,
she said, "What's that? Oh, I think I've seen that one. Oh, I liked it." I thought, there is an element of this being a bit of a chick flick. There's a kind of girl who likes D.H. Lawrence.
Is there?
Oh yeah. There's. I think that probably Lawrence has got more fans amongst women than men.
Almost,
and they are kind of quite open to like the rainbow and Sons and Lovers and stuff like that. And I think this sort of falls. Henry Miller, nice. I think it kind of falls into that category a bit. And I think this film probably appealed to that.
Almost the first line of this film is that guy with the beard saying to Anais Nin, "Sorry, you're writing a treatise on D.H. Lawrence."
Yes,
I just imagine everyone turning off at that point.
No. My eldest sister, she's a big Lawrence fan. There's a lot. He's kind of has managed to hold on to quite a lot of the distaff side, I shall say, in a way that places me in a different era. So I think probably if we're going to be a little bit fair, this might be more of a girls' movie than it is a boys' movie. I still think it's rotten.
better films on a similar subject.
Well, I was thinking about this. It's quite difficult. I suppose...
A bit earlier, but what's the Woody Allen film that's set in Paris with Owen Wilson?
Oh, it's late. Oh, yeah. So Midnight in Paris is fun.
Yeah.
That is a fun film.
Yeah.
I think. Actually, I thought the most similar thing, Rolly, is Julie Jim.
Yes, no, that's true.
Because it's kind of a manage a trois, and that's just a great film. That's just a really great movie. And there was another one I thought I was thinking of. I just wrote it down here. Oh, where have I written it? I did actually make notes. You'll be surprised to know.
I'm surprised.
And I was kind of here's a strange Carrington. I think Carrington's quite similar. Yes, although those group are obviously not remotely as glamorous as sexy, but they are in and out of each other's beds.
I'd love to see Fred Warder's Lytton Strange.
Yeah, it's sort of like Lytton Strange is like the English answer to him. I don't much care for Emma Thompson's performance in Carrington, but Jonathan Pryce is great. It's got a really good screenplay by old Christopher Hampton, isn't it?
It is Christopher Hampton.
And I think
it's usually Christopher Hampton.
And also I thought about slightly different, but Song of Summer. The Delius biopic that Ken Russell did for, which has got similar-ish themes, I think. There's a hypersexed composer sort of genius, and not that similar, of course, but I thought just something that manages to do a portrait of an artist of this era who's a complex figure, and do it in a funnier, because it is funny, I think, Song of Summer, and in a more interesting way.
Funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes this a rotten 90s film for you? Well, it's got Uma Thurman in it.
Yeah.
It's got Richard E. Grant in it.
Yeah. I think
it's trying to be sexy.
That's it. I think the earnest attempt at a sort of consensual, non-macho kind of erotica.
Yeah. No, that's gone, hasn't it?
Which was very much, remember there was that video that they released in the early 90s, a kind of sex, sex held kind of for couples.
The Love and Touch or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's sort of. I think it kind of captures that sort of mood of trying to.
Well, suburban couples. And now this is how you.
Yeah, trying to move beyond the secret lemonade drinker notion of sex. I think that makes
Brian's talking about the novel, not the advert.
Not the advert. I'd like to see that. I think
maybe Fred Ward should play the guy who goes down to his fridge at midnight and comes in to find a bottle of all white lemonade in there.
So Nias Nin comes out and sort of finds him at it.
Looks disapproving. So all white lemonade, he says.
So marks out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 3, I'm afraid. I found it intolerably long and boring. If you've got a film and it's got Uma Thurman doing a lesbian sex scene in it and it's still boring...
No, I made this very point. I can't imagine... That's quite an art.
Yeah. That should be impossible, really, shouldn't it?
I really hated it at the cinema. And watching this again... I just thought, why have we even taken on this project? What are we doing? Why am I having to take up my Saturday night watching this trash? And it hadn't improved. I wonder if any of these projects are actually going to have improved with age. This hasn't improved with age at all. In fact, I think I hated it more the second time around than the first time. It's just awful. 3. I'd have to give it 3 because it is beautifully shot.
And what word, if you could choose a word to describe this film, what would it be?
Long.
Okay, I'm going to have unsexy.
All right, thank you very much. And join us next week for another rotten 90s movie.